So it feels like everywhere we look, there is a help wanted sign. Fast food, restaurants, retail establishments, everywhere. Everyone is hiring. So is this a big need for new staff and new employees? Is it carrying over into aviation? Let's talk about it. And I have good news for you. But before we dive into staffing shortages and what that means for you as a aspiring flight attendant, first of all, I want to thank you for watching this video. I would love it if you would subscribe to the channel. I'm Abby Unger, the owner of Flight Attendant Career Connection, a company that helps aspiring and ambitious flight attendants land their dream job faster and with less frustration. So now let's talk about staffing shortages. And now that we got all that housekeeping out of the way, staffing shortages, yes, are definitely affecting aviation. We see this in every department in aviation at every airline in the United States. There are staffing shortages. So what does this mean for you as an aspiring flight attendant? So on the surface, this is excellent news if 2022 is your year to earn your wings. If this is the year that you are going to become a flight attendant, then staffing shortages, meaning lots of open positions. Staffing shortages sounds kind of negative when you say it that way. Staffing shortages, staffing shortages. But what that really means is lots of opportunity for people who are looking for new jobs, different jobs, coming back into the workforce, changing, going into a second or third career. There's opportunity in pretty much every industry, and that includes aviation. So if you are planning to become a flight attendant in 2022, this is amazing news because there is a lot of opportunity. Now, I'm going to make sure that the link is down in the description, but there is a page on my website that always has the airlines, a list of the airlines that are accepting applications. So it actually has a list of all the airlines. So don't let that confuse you. It sometimes throws people off, but it's a list of all the airlines in the United States. And then if they're accepting applications, we have the words accepting applications right next to the name of the airline. The reason that I keep the airline list instead of like deleting the ones that aren't is because I think that it's a really good tool for you to maybe discover an airline you hadn't heard of, or maybe after you've filled out all your applications, spend some time learning about other airlines that maybe you've heard of, but you haven't considered. So that's why I like to keep the list completely full of all the airline names so that it's a learning tool as well as a tool to help you be able to fill out more applications, which of course increases your odds. So some of the things that we need to know about this staffing shortage or this increased opportunity in aviation is, first of all, the shortages and the opportunities. The shortages are on across every department. So back in 2020, one of the first things that airlines did was, well, pretty much everyone did, but airlines specifically, that's who we're talking about. Airlines did was cut human resources or recruiting departments. So they furloughed, they put people in different departments, they stopped hiring, they dissolved relationships with contractors who were doing these jobs. And so then when aviation rebounded and bounced right back, one thing that we have found ourselves in, a position we found ourselves in aviation, is there is more open jobs than there are literal people that can screen resumes, review video interviews, conduct video interviews, onboard new applicants, send out paperwork, receive paperwork, set up drug tests, all the things that need to be done that are done through the recruiting department. There's more open positions and there's more people applying and more new hires being onboarded than there are recruiters, then the recruiters can handle the task. So we've seen a huge influx of new people coming into the human resources departments at lots of different airlines, which is really, really exciting, especially if you are a human resources person. So if you're a human resources person, a recruiter, if that's kind of like your jam, then, look at aviation. One thing that is really important. Actually, my husband's mentor told him this when he first started in aviation, was no matter what job you have in aviation, the benefits are basically the same. And I think that that's important to note. So whether you're a flight attendant or you work on the ramp or you work in human resources, you're going to be getting the same benefits basically across the board. So flying for free, your health insurance, 401k with a match if your airline offers it, which most do. So that's something to kind of keep in mind. So a little shout out for anyone who wants to go into recruiting, because we need recruiters too. But if you're just an aspiring, not just, but if your focus is becoming a flight attendant, which of course is my favorite, then again, there's lots of opportunity for you. So there's a couple of things I want you to know. Don't be afraid to go ahead and apply to multiple airlines. In fact, I encourage you to apply to multiple airlines. Sometimes we see the process take a long time. The last time Southwest Airlines opened flight attendant applications was back in September 2021. They are still working through those applications. I actually have a couple clients just this last time that this happened to. And honestly, throughout my entire career doing as a flight attendant career coach, one of my very first clients had the same experience. Applied to Southwest, ended up getting hired. I'm like, what does she do? She applied to Southwest as well as a couple other airlines, ended up working for a regional airline for about 9 months. And then she ended up going to Southwest. And like I said, that was back in the day, that was 2013. But I've also had a couple clients do that with this last hiring boom, where they applied to Southwest in September, as well as some other regionals, and then ended up flying for a regional for a few months, and then were able to interview and successfully complete training with Southwest. And now they're Southwest flight attendants, and that's where they're going to stay. That's the career. I was going to say the career ender, but that's negative. So that's the airline where they're going to settle and work the rest of their career at Southwest. But it's really cool that in both these cases, these aspiring flight attendants got to go ahead and get their wings earlier, sooner, faster than if they had waited on Southwest. Now, I do have other clients, one in particular I'm thinking of, who is a teacher, and she said, I like what I'm doing enough to wait for Southwest. So she waited for Southwest and continued to teach, but she will be going to training here in the next couple months too. And so she chose to go that direction because earning her wings ASAP, as soon as possible, was not necessarily the goal. So if you are like, I'm becoming a flight attendant this year, I want to go and discover which airline is the best fit for me. I'm ready to get out of what I'm doing now and go ahead and dive on in. Then please apply to multiple airlines, because the process could take a long time. Also, from a psychological standpoint, the more airlines you apply to, the more empowered you feel about your career. So if we're just sort of like raising our hand for one airline and then we wait and wait and wait, and then 5 months later they say, oh, thanks so much, no thank you, and then we have to like start over again and then raise our hand again, that doesn't feel so good. But if you're applying to 12 airlines and you get a couple video interviews straight away, maybe they work out, maybe they don't, maybe you do get an offer and you say, I don't know if this is the right fit for me. Or maybe you do get an offer and you're like, oh my gosh, they were so great to me, I would have never considered them before, but I think that this is a fantastic company, and you go in that direction. You're just more empowered, your odds are increased. So apply to several airlines. All right. So another thing that I want you to be thinking about, as far as what we're seeing with staffing shortages, increased opportunity, as well as sort of smaller human resources departments that are working as hard as they can to keep the ball rolling and keep people hired and keep people moving through the process, is you need to be ready to apply when the application opens. So like Southwest that I was talking about in September, they had a bunch of tech problems. If you were around then, if you were an aspiring flight attendant, then you remember, you probably have a little bit of like a little bit of like bad feelings that maybe come up when we think about that lady holding that book. But anyways, if you don't know, if you know, you know, if you don't know, don't worry about it. But anyway, so it was only open for a few hours, that application. United opened last month for about 24 hours. Delta has been opening and closing one application. So the acquisition number, the application number isn't changing, which means you can only apply to that position once. And they've been opening and closing it, trying to get new candidates into the pipeline that haven't applied recently. So you need to be ready, because sometimes it's really, really quick. So you need to be ready with your resume. Make sure your resume is airline ready. I have a couple videos about this, and those are linked below. In the video, I'm almost positive that I talk about resume services. Those don't exist in that way anymore. But I can put a link to the page that does have the resources for airline ready resumes, flight attendant resumes for y'all down in the description. So that's one thing, is getting your resume airline ready. Southwest does this free webinar. I'll put the link to that registration too down in the description. But Southwest does this free webinar. Their recruiting department does one. It's called Career Connections. No relation, but it's called Career Connections. And they're always joking about the fact that if you set up your alert for a Southwest job and you get that alert that the job is open that you've been wanting to apply to, even if you're in the grocery store, stop what you're doing and fill out the application, because time is of the essence and you want to be one of the first ones to get your application in. So that's why your resume needs to be ready. You can create a resume that is airline ready in general to the airlines. You don't need to create a different resume for every single different airline. I mean, you could if you wanted to. Some people do because that's their jam. But you just need one that's a flight attendant resume that you have used the job descriptions from flight attendant hiring applications that you can find around on the internet, and that you have created this resume that's kind of ready to go. It doesn't have to have an airline's name on it. It doesn't have to be specific to the airline, because you want to be able to quickly apply. Okay, so that's one thing. Another thing is I would encourage you, I would exhort you, I would implore you to get your passport. Now, this is something that brings a lot of confusion. Is a passport required to become a flight attendant? So every airline requires you to have a passport as a flight attendant. But at what stage of the game do they require you to have the passport in your possession? That's what changes. So when you read the job description, it will either say able to obtain a passport and enter and exit all countries that, my airline serves, or it will say must be in possession of a valid passport. So do you see the difference? Must be able to obtain, must be in possession of. Okay, so if the airline job listing says must be in possession of a passport, then you need to be in possession of your passport, meaning you have a passport. You don't have to be holding it in your hand literally when you apply, but you have to already have a passport to apply. Okay, if it says must be able to obtain, then that means that they will either require it at some point further down in the application or in the interview process, or before your first day of training. Okay, so either way, or any of these situations, you will need to be getting yourself a passport. So if you don't have a passport yet, there are some airlines you can apply to today without a passport, knowing that you will need to buy a passport before you graduate and become a flight attendant. Okay, but there are some airlines that you cannot apply to unless you're in possession of that passport. Passports are an investment. Passports they cost, I think, like $180. They cost over $100. So if you're not in a place to go ahead and get your passport done today. Also, it's a process. You have to send it off. You got to have these certain pictures. You got to go. Do you still go to the post office? I don't know. You got to do all these different things. So it's a little bit of a process. So go ahead and get that started. Get the paperwork printed off. Get it filled out. Go ahead and get your pictures taken. Start saving up your money to get your passport. Also, if you go ahead and get your passport before you're at crunch time, then you don't have to pay for expedited services, which is going to save you money in the long run. So please get your passport. Plus, your passport opens the world to you. Who cares? What if you never get hired as a flight attendant? Too bad. You love people and you love to travel. Get your passport and do your thing. Get a passport. Okay, that's that. That's that soapbox about passports. Also, a little side note, your driver's license, social security card, and passport, your names have to match identically. Your names have to be identical and they have to match exactly, which means if you've gotten married or one doesn't have a middle name or one is spelled wrong. My dad had his last name spelled wrong on his driver's license for like a long time because my maiden name is Sumner with Sumner and it said Summers for a long time. So he would not have been successful in the background check to become a flight attendant because his passport didn't match his driver's license. So please make sure they match. Okay. Make sure that they match. And then the last one, my last tip is to prepare for the interview. So we're going to get our resume ready. We're going to work on the passport and then we're going to prepare for the interview. So when Alaska Airlines started accepting applications, not this round today, which y'all don't even know what day it is. It's like mid-April, but I think it was a couple months ago. They almost immediately sent out video interview invitations, pre-recorded on-demand video invitations with a 72-hour deadline. Like, it was like, y'all, come on. And then people who have gone through that, like, they're in training now. So like, it was so fast. It was so fast. So my point of that is, do not wait until you get that video interview to start, or that video interview invitation to start preparing for your interview. There will not be enough time. And you're excited and you've got your other life. So like you have 72 hours plus you have to figure out what you're going to wear. You've got to still work your job. You've got to come home. You got to get your lighting right. Like there are things to do in the 72 hours that you have to complete the video interview. And of course, you're going to refresh. And, with Alaska, you're going to go over the core values, learn how to be remarkable, how to put safety first, how to show your kind-heartedness, all that stuff. But in general, you're going to want to have prepared beforehand. One of my clients that's in study hall, that's a member of the hub, she was in that batch. So what happened was she got this invitation for 72 hours and was able to quickly complete it and quickly move on to the face-to-face. And she told me she was so grateful that she had already started working on her star format answers. She'd already started remembering all the old stories that she had that were amazing so that she could use them in her video interview. And she was so glad that she had already started practicing during study hall and with the Flight Attendant Career Connection interview workbook so that she was so much farther ahead and didn't feel that time crunch to also prepare for the interview questions. So in the description, I'm going to link to the workbook. I'll also link to the hub so that you can read about that and find out what that is. But I really, really encourage you to get a copy of the Flight Attendant Career Connection Interview Workbook Bundle. It has over 50 interview questions in there. There's no answers because that's up to you, obviously. And but it also comes with 4 training videos that will help you come up with your best answers. So it's an amazing online resource. It's a digital download. So you get it instantly so you can start preparing for your interview today. So hopefully this video is helpful. I hope you feel encouraged. If you were maybe feeling discouraged because the process was taking a long time or you felt like there was so much competition, you'll never even get a chance to shine. I hope you find this video encouraging because the process is long, because they're working as fast as they can. And even though the competition is tough, it's always been tough and the standard's always been high to be a flight attendant. There is a lot of opportunity. So you can find your place. Just continue to prepare, make sure your resume is ready. And I can't wait to see who gets to give you a pair of wings this year. Talk to you later. Bye.